I first started getting into the fine art, it was a focus on the African and the African American journey from Africa continent to the slave trade to coming to America through the Civil War and Reconstruction, all that. But I found probably about 4 years ago that narrative has been repeated over and over again. And so I started to explore what else I can say about us as Black people. My focus is Black people. And so that's when I started doing the Introvert series. And that's the most current series. And it focuses on, first of all, myself, because I recognize and acknowledge that I'm an introvert. I'm not a good people person unless I have to turn that on. But I wanted to celebrate first acknowledging that when people compliment me, I have to be able to embrace it. But beyond that, we have to embrace it. You know, more of self-love, but a lot more of loving of Black folk. And that's what the narrative has been for the last 4 years. You know, that's a hard one. It's very difficult to be not very social to get your work out there. Fortunately for social media, you can create a personality. And you can sell that personality without having to be out there and trying to socialize, to sell your work, to sell the ego, because the artist has to sell the confidence in who they are and what they're doing. Ideally, and I've been doing it for 10 years now, I've been looking for that partner. I've been looking for that agent that will go out there and do the hard part. And the hard part is selling me. But I've navigated it. I've been blessed. The universe has kind of recognized and assigned me to be an artist in this universe. So in that, it also opens up doors. You know, people often find me, but I've also been doing this for 20 years. And so that's the blessing, is that people are finding me. Because if it was up to me, I discovered that even when I go into social events, if I show up, people are startled that I'm there. Because I don't do a lot of it. I just don't go out. And it's a struggle. Even the idea of going out there, I have to, pump myself up to do it. I knew I wanted to go to that last opening at the Art Exchange. And so I worked on it and said, you got to do it. You're going to see a lot of people. Your friends are there. Your supporters are there. They're there, and they're going to greet you, Charlie, so do it. And so I went, and I had a great time. But those kinds of things are challenging because of who I am. And it's very natural for artists to be introverts, to be inside our mind, inside our spirit, inside our spaces. And so going out there and doing things like that is a challenge. Ideally, again, is having a partner that sells you. There are gifted, talented salespeople out there. I just have not made that connection with the person that sees my vision. Mm-hmm. And so I've been very particular about that. If I see you want to take me in another direction, if that person's telling me to paint certain subject matters because it's going to sell, they also don't understand my vision. Because my vision is to tell our story and celebrate our story. And so if someone's bringing me a project where I'm painting something that I'm not passionate about, I'm going to pass on that. I've learned very quickly that Atlanta operates in cliques, even artist cliques. I've been surprised to find out that there might be a friend of mine over here who does the traveling shows around the country. And they're not even familiar with the artists that do fine art shows here and other places in the country, who may not be aware of the artists that might be graphic designers who are doing their work in their studios or working for an agency. And it's like, okay, why are we not socializing with one another? There is a separation in Black artists and white artists, and rarely do they mix. I'm discovering so few sketch groups and everything that will have a combination of Black and white artists. I recall seeing an article a couple of years ago about how great an art community Atlanta is. And when I read the article and it was other Black artists that are around, they were like, who are they talking about? Because they're not talking about us. But they're talking about, there are a lot of great art programs here in Atlanta, but a lot of them are not geared to benefit Black artists. And so the other part of the game is to be in that network of people, being associated and connected with these organizations that have this funding, because there are go-to people here. And even when it comes to, because I heard somebody talking about Hollywood and how Hollywood has selected their comedian, a black comedian of the year, or for the next decade, or whatever it's going to be, like in the case of Kevin Hart. And then why is it every damn movie, Kevin Hart is the person that there's so much talent out there, and they're only willing to let a few in at any given time. And that has to do with Atlanta, but that has to do with this country. This country only lets a few black artists in at any given time. And it's a lucrative business once they focus on that chosen artist. But I think that we often hear that there are not enough available black artists out there. I've stepped into, in the last couple of years, black children books. And the industry has a tendency to use only certain artists. And there's so many more talented black artists out there that they could use. But the same thing happens with black writers. They say, we can't find a black writer to write about this story, so we're going to hire. It's like, no, they're all out there. And so part of my goal, and some of the people that I'm working with, we know these black writers. We know a lot of them. We know these black illustrators and artists. We know a lot of them. We can bring these two together and watch what we can do. So I think it's that whole idea of, even if you're out there playing the game, I don't want to say tap dance, but it is tap dancing. Because you got to, as a black male, we're naturally assumed threatened. So there's this idea of taking up the octave of your voice. Facial hair can be intimidating. Sometimes direct eye contact can be intimidating. And so you have to do these things that, like, okay, I guess I could be much further if I'm willing to do that dance, but I'm not willing to do that dance. And so, but I'm okay with going to bed every night feeling the way I feel, because I know I turned that down. And yet it was a nice paycheck there, but in the end, I have some integrity and I have to live with myself. So you have to figure out how to navigate this thing. And at the same time, I say all that intense stuff, but I'm so determined to also have fun at what I'm doing.